As you can see, I've been around the block a few times. In this video, I'll share with you 10 things I wish I'd known about photography 35 years ago. Some of these points may seem obvious. With some, I should have known better. And some might just save you time, money, and effort. Photography is a massive subject and can be a lifelong pursuit. I made a list of about 50 things I could have shared, but let's stick to 10 for now. What I'm hoping to do is share with you some pearls of wisdom that you might find useful, and maybe how you can use them to save time, money, and effort, and to help you get to where you want to be with your photography. And once we're done, make sure you stay to the end, because I'll also share with you 3 tips to help you get better photos no matter what camera or smartphone you already have. So, here's 10 things I wish I'd have known when I started. Maybe this is obvious, maybe not, but because of all the technical terminology, photography almost has a language of its own. I wish I'd learned all the jargon far earlier than I actually did. Shutter speed, aperture, focal length, stops, metering, ASA, then in the digital age, ISO, megapixels, LCD, and so on. And how to use depth of field to my advantage, what shutter speed to use, what lenses to get, and loads of other things. There was a lot to learn. It was almost like I was embarrassed to ask, which is daft really. I'm sure I'm not alone on this one. In fact, I know I'm not. Everyone does it at some point. I've often bought kit that I could have probably done without, or at least waited a while before buying. My advice would be to make the most of the camera or smartphone you already have, and only upgrade when you've totally outgrown your current gear, or when you have a specific purpose for a new toy. Perhaps getting a longer focal length lens for doing some wildlife photography maybe. Without doubt, the camera manufacturers want you to buy their latest and greatest camera or piece of kit. After all, that's why they're in business. Try to resist the temptation. Ask yourself, is this a need or a want? For instance, I would recommend getting a better lens before buying a new camera body. It's all about the glasses, they say. Learning basic composition when I started would have definitely improved my photography from the get-go. I wasn't even sure what was meant by composition, and back then I definitely couldn't ask the internet. I'd recommend becoming familiar with the rule of thirds first, because it's pretty easy to understand and it'll take you a long way. It's not really a rule, by the way, and anyway, rules are meant to be broken. Learn to shoot in manual mode. This is my first ever proper camera, an Olympus OM10 35mm film camera, which still works, by the way. I couldn't afford an OM1, a pro camera, but the game changer for me was buying this optional manual adapter and learning to shoot in manual. My photography improved no end. I must confess though, when I bought my first DSLR, I'd had a break from photography and incorrectly assumed that this amazing new technology would do everything for me. Auto was fine up to a point, but I soon got back to shooting in manual mode. So embrace manual mode, it's totally worth the effort, which brings us to the next point. In my opinion, you're far better off paying for courses, books, attending seminars, and watching good old YouTube of course, than buying the latest and greatest camera or camera gear. Granted, being a college tutor, I might be biased. Putting my money where my mouth is, I bought this book in 1979, and although it was written for 35mm cameras, it's still relevant to this day. I have of course bought many more books and courses over the years, and I still do. I have regularly invested time and money in my photography education over the years, and I would strongly advise you to do the same. Truth be told, I still very much enjoy learning, and with modern advances in technology, there's always something new to take on board. Sometimes you don't always get the shot you want, and you might have only had one chance. But let me ask you this, would you prefer to have an out of focus, imperfect picture of a loved one that has passed away, or not have the picture at all? Silly question, really. I'm sure, like me, you have family pictures of previous generations that are not perfect. My point is, we don't always get the perfect shot, and on those occasions where we can't have another go, be grateful you at least got a shot, even if it's not perfect. Building connections within the photographic community is important for several reasons. Self-education, opportunities to network with people in the industry, photographic opportunities and collaborations. but the most important in my opinion is making lasting friendships. Over the years, I've been very fortunate to make some fantastic friends through photography, including other like-minded photographers, friends of friends that are model for us, students from my college classes, as well as customers. I found photography to be really enjoyable, not only for what it is, but also for making great friends. And you never know where those friendships and connections will lead. Leading on from the previous point, if you can find someone you respect, look up to, and trust to give you constructive feedback, you will not only learn from the experience, but you'll probably be able to make improvements to your work. I know it's sometimes hard to put your soul on the line, so to speak, but the rewards outweigh the perceived embarrassment. And done correctly, a critique should be a good experience. I often have critique sessions in class with my photography students, and I would say that 95% of the time they go really well and they are really well appreciated. We did have one lad that thought he was Simon Cowell from the X Factor, but that's another story. Anyway, moving on. Now this could be contentious. Bear in mind this advice is coming from someone who had this as his first camera. Put it this way, if we didn't evolve with technology, we'd still be using the box brownie and old cameras like this. And believe me, I've met some photographers that wished we still did. Over the years, I've heard people dismiss DSLRs, saying they would never replace 35mm film cameras, and then claiming that mirrorless cameras would never catch on. They say that you don't need all those bells and whistles, and that you should never edit. Just get it right in camera. And I'm sure that you've heard people saying smartphone cameras is not proper photography. I wonder what they make of AI. Let me know in the comments if you've heard these sorts of conversations, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Cherish the journey, absolutely. If I could speak to my younger self, apart from giving me the winning lottery tickets, my advice would be to enjoy every step of the learning process. It's human nature to want to be an expert before we start. But at the risk of repeating myself, photography is a lifelong adventure. The advance in technology is amazing and there is always something to learn. My wife's grandmother died peacefully at the age of 100 years old. She learned to speak Spanish in her 80s. She drove a car until she was 90. She took evening classes in calligraphy and computing, again in her 90s. She taught the old people to keep fit. Most were 20 years younger than her, by the way, and she loved quiz shows to keep her mind sharp. If that's not cherishing the journey, I don't know what is. To quote the American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Thanks for sticking with me. Here's that bonus I promised you. First up, learn how to use your camera or smartphone camera properly. That's not particularly exciting, but if you know where all the menu buttons are and how to change the settings easily and with confidence, then you're far more likely to be composed and in control when you're actually out taking pictures. And if you can alter the settings without even looking, you've nailed it. Learn some of the rules of composition, such as the rule of thirds, leading lines and symmetry, and to know when to break those so-called rules. Most modern cameras and iPhones allow you to see the rule of thirds grid as an overlay on the screen. You can use this to your advantage by placing horizons, objects, or your subject on one part of the grid. I have a separate video on the rule of thirds if you'd like to check that out. And once you're comfortable with the rule of thirds, learn and experiment with other compositional tools. If you ever think, I'll fix that while I'm editing, have a word with yourself. The more you can get right in camera, the better, and it'll definitely save you time. It's fine to fix that slightly wonky horizon or to adjust a little for the rule of thirds maybe, but try not to overcrop when you edit. Check your exposure meter before pressing your shutter so that your shot is correctly exposed for your subject. It's fine to tweak it slightly in post, but big increases in exposure might spoil your picture, and if your image is really overexposed, you may never regain any detail in the highlights, even if you are shooting in RAW. And check your framing. Look around the viewfinder to make sure you're including everything you want and indeed excluding what you don't want. It may even be as simple as moving slightly to the left or to the right, or getting lower or higher to get the framing you actually want. As an extra bonus, there's a link in the description box below if you'd like to grab your copy of my 40-page ebook the 3 essential pillars of good photography. I've had some great feedback on it and it's free for you to download. Please let me know in the comments which of these points you find most useful. Or if you'd like to share something you wish you'd have learned earlier, I really would like to hear from you. If you found value in this video, please like and subscribe. It's free, very much appreciated, and it really does help others like you that may find this channel useful. If you click the bell icon, you'll get notified when I add a new video. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.